Alina, if you get this letter, know that when I told you about True North, I was talking about you. You are my True North, and I can see my way to you now.
And I'm Noah, and you're listening to A Bite Of,
where we take our current favorite pop culture obsession and enjoy it one nibble at a time.
And we continue our trek through Leigh Bardugo's Netflix adaptation of her Grishaverse series, Shadow and Bone.
Yes, multiple bites of Shadow and Bone we are taking.
That's what we do. We take it episode by episode, property by property, and get into it.
Heck yeah.
And before we do that,
absolutely,
make sure you check out our Patreon. We got bonus exclusive episodes on there. Actually, listeners and Patreon members get to pick what we cover. If that sounds like it interests you or you want to support the show, go over there and check it out a little bit. Of course, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at A Bite of Pod. You find us on there. We have a Facebook group. People go in there and discuss many other fandoms. So go ahead and check it out. It's a little service announcement.
I love our housekeeping stuff.
Yeah.
You might be sick of it, but we're not.
They're just like, skip 15 seconds.
Exactly.
Skip 15 seconds.
All right, so let's take a look back at our last episode. So in episode 3 of Shadow and Bone, called The Making at the Heart of the World, Alina has visions of the white stag. She is introduced to Genya, the king and queen, lots of training, the apparat, and more, all while writing letters to Mal that she never gets responses to.
The whole episode was letter.
Letter. The crows get their stuff together and ride a train through the fold with the conductor, where they come up against Volcra and squeeze a goat for peace.
Peaceful goat. Goat yoga. Ah.
Oh my God, I would love to do goat yoga. Those little critters jumping all over you. They think you're rocks.
I would not. I couldn't do actual yoga if goats were on me. I just want to play with them and hug them. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the point. With any blank yoga, you're just either drinking beer or playing with a kitten or watching a goat jump on someone.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
All right. Of course, spoiler alert. We're going to be talking about the 4th episode of Shadow and Bone. And, you know, we've also read the books, so we're going to be comparing and contrasting. So if you don't want either of those things spoiled, watch out.
You've been warned.
You've been warned. All right. Let us officially take a bite of Shadow and Bone, episode 4, Otkazat'sya.
I'm so glad that you're the one that says that, because I saw the title and I was like, wow.
There's Z's, there's 3 A's, there's an apostrophe. I tried my best, people. But I did look up what Otkazat'sya means.
Ooh.
And it's, in the Ravkan language, basically boiled down to the word orphan.
Oh, makes sense now.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of looking back at their pasts.
Yeah. Anytime a word has a comma on the top.
Apostrophe.
Okay. Throws me off a little bit.
Even the word.
I had this. The reason why I say this, there was this girl in middle school, and she had an apostrophe in her name. But anytime she would spell her name, she would be like, comma on the top. And I was like, what? A what on the top?
It reminds me of in Orange is the New Black when Poussey would spell her name. She'd be like, accent à droite.
Yeah.
Pretty baller.
Love it. So the more we get into this series, the more back and forth it's going, especially with more characters being introduced. So I'm hoping at some point storylines start converging, because this, to me, like, I couldn't even fathom how to discuss and recap and break down a show like Sense8, where there's
my gosh,
8 different characters. This one is like a little rough. And to make it easier, we decided to take it in chunks. We're going to talk about the crows first, then Nina, and then Mal, and then Alina, and all that stuff. So just if you're like, why are you talking about the crows? That's why we're doing it. So it's easier for you to follow along instead of going with one little tiny scene in the middle of something. It's super weird.
It's better for all of us to digest, I think.
Right. You take it in little nibbles at a time. So with the crows, we start in East Ravka. So remember, they crossed the fold with the conductor. They're getting closer to Alina to complete their job for 1,000,000 kruga. So we see the crows, they're in a bar, and Kaz comes up with the plan to steal the little palace blueprints to get in there, because they don't have Nina, so it's a little harder to just walk up to the gates where the Grisha are and try to get in. So his plan, essentially, is to pose as a sculptor, go to where these plans are being kept, and persuade the guy that holds all the blueprints to he pretty much tells him, I have a statue and I need to know if it fits through the door. They'd be pissed if it was just left on the front lawn. We see him in disguise. So we're seeing Kaz's skills a little bit come out. He can be charming if he wants to. He knows how to lie. So I think it's great. We get to see a little more of Kaz instead of just being a brooding teenager with gloves that he never takes off.
Yeah, we can definitely see that he can turn it on and off, right? His normal stance, I would say, is more of an off position.
Yeah.
And then when he turns it on is when the charm comes on and you know that he's working a heist or he's doing a job. That's how he gets information out of people, or he gets what he wants.
Exactly. And we get this really cool. So this is why, people love the Six of Crows. They're heists. They're very intricate. They're fun to follow. So while Kaz is in there and the guy's getting the blueprints, he has phosphorus patches that lead the way to where the guy gets the blueprints from, because they need to know, because he can't go back there. It's behind a lock and key. So when Inej comes in later with the lights off, she can see exactly the drawer that it's in. I mean, it's so smart. Super smart. I loved it.
I do think it's funny that the guy who's running these archives is very annoyed that people come in and constantly ask for the blueprints to the little palace.
What else is he doing?
But I just feel like, yeah, exactly. One, what else are you doing? This is your job. But two, I like how they're just like, yeah, here's the dimensions to the entryway of the little palace, right? This is the palace. Seems like you'd want to protect it a little more, but apparently not. He's like, I can't give them to you, but I'll give you a small schematic.
It is interesting, though. Maybe that line is more concerning than I thought, just from you saying that, because if people were coming in for those specific things and the Sun Summoner was just a thing, people want to kill her. He just gave it away super quickly to a sculptor, in quotes. So
he's like, look, these are public records, okay? I have to just do my job. I'll give them to you. I don't care what you do with them afterwards.
Right. I mean, I guess that is true. He just needs to know the dimensions. It's not like you could take it with you, so there is some safeguard, but I mean, still, whatever. So later that night, the plan goes into full swing. Jesper goes, turns off the lights. Inej comes in through the ceiling. She follows the trail and gets to the blueprints, but she can't take them, so she makes a copy. Super quick at doing that. I mean, they know their shit. They are full-blown professional criminals.
Yeah. I do like that the heist is called the Royal Archives Heist.
I mean, why call it anything else?
They're like bare bones people. We'll know what it is. We can't give it a code name. Okay? Just Royal Archives Heist. I also sort of like seeing the inner workings of the light system in a place, whereas it's not electricity, right? There's either a gas line or a steam line that Jesper has to shut off. So I thought that was like a cool little detail that we got to see.
So just as Inej is about to leave, guards come in and the lights go on. So she can't go back up through the ceiling. She pulls her rope down. She sneaks her way around the guards, and sadly, they close the gate behind them. So she's stuck in that room. And luckily, Jesper's looking out for her. He's on the balcony above. He's like, wait a second. Turns to the next hour. Bell tolls. He shoots the lock as soon as the bell tolls so nobody could hear it. I mean, people probably could have heard it. But
I mean, he also did like whistle or something beforehand. And like, weren't the guards like, oh, just the nightly whistling is happening. No big deal.
That's not a telltale sign of thieves.
Thievery. Heisting.
So they get out. Blueprints acquired.
Woohoo!
Yay. The crows later go over the blueprints and they find out there's no way in or out.
No, there is no point in any of this. They're like, this is too small. Everybody's there. This is going to be guarded. We risked our lives for these blueprints for absolutely no reason.
Hey, but they needed a check.
True.
Like, do your
They
due
thought
diligence.
it was the way in.
Yeah, exactly.
But, well, better that they did the research now than when they got there.
Exactly. And just as they're discussing this, behind them, a performer falls, and the conductor gives a funny look at that performer. The crows then meet Marco. He's the leader of the traveling troupe, and this troupe just so happens to be performing at the Winter Fete.
Yes.
Which is this big event that's going to be taking place at the Little Palace. Coincidence. Lucky timing. Great job, guys.
Absolutely. And when they go off to get the blueprints, the conductor is left with the task to, quote unquote, make friends, because it is a bit of a journey to get to the Little Palace, so they need a ride there. So there's this moment where the conductor is like, well, looking at these blueprints, I knew this wouldn't work. So for a second, I was like, oh, we still can't trust the conductor. What's he doing? But really, he's just ruining other people's careers in order for them to get over to the palace.
I mean, it seems like he's conducting some great plans.
But
Yeah, so it turns out we see this little sequence where he made the performer fall. So,
oil?
Yeah, on silk. I mean, it seems like it makes sense.
I decided it's oil because I was like, I don't know. That seems slippery.
It's silk lubricant.
And it stains the silk.
Yeah. So thankfully, their ticket to replace that performer is Inej because she's a great aerobaticist. So Inej ends up putting on a show, her aerial silk skills, and she gets hired.
Winner.
We see a great scene with that. Then Jesper, to hitch a ride, he also has to demonstrate his skills. He uses a mirror and shoots behind his back a card in half that's in Inej's mouth while she's upside down on these silk curtains. I mean, I probably would not have trusted somebody that much, but I'm glad that they have this much trust in each other.
That's why you're a great team.
Then I was thinking this whole time, I was like, well, what's Kaz going to do? Is he going to dress up again?
That's what I thought. I thought he was going to show his quick change abilities. He's a seamstress.
He's no performer. He's like, I'll find my own way. Thanks. Yeah. Bye. So most of them have a way there. They have a ride. I'm pretty sure he's still going to hitch a ride with them anyway.
Oh, yeah. Some sort of underneath the carriage holding on real tight for miles and miles thing.
Exactly. So that's where we leave our crows in this situation, in this episode. So they now have a ride and a plan, to get into the little palace.
Right. I also want to mention that we did have to say goodbye to our dear goat, Milo.
Yes.
Who is living with a barmaid who's apparently going to take good care of him, although I'm very nervous for his life.
Oh, no. Why? Oh.
I don't know. What is she going to do with him?
Hopefully, milk.
Just love him?
Hopefully. I mean, probably not. No.
Exactly.
The menu the next day was lamb chops.
That's what I'm saying. East Ravkan goat yoga. It's happening.
Yeah, she's going to have a goat yoga session in the back. Oh, I hope so.
Yeah. Next, we meet up with Nina and Mathias. But before we actually get to them on the ship, we have an interesting little scene between General Kirigan, a.k.a. the Darkling, and Fedyor. So Kirigan's like, hey, Fedyor, have you ever heard of this heart render named Nina? He's like, yeah, she's the best in the biz. He's like, well, she's been running a mission for me and I haven't heard from her. So you got to go find her.
Plot thickens.
Indeed, because we never actually knew what Nina was doing.
Right.
We just knew that she was out there. So now we know that she's actually been working with Mr. Darkling.
Yep.
This entire time.
7 degrees of Darkling bacon. I mean, it's connecting. All of it's connecting.
It's all connecting and it's sizzling, people. So then we see Nina still locked in chains on the lower deck of a ship. And Mathias comes down there. Things are wet as usual. And we learn that she's just been there starving. And he brings her a little piece of bread. She's like, I'm not eating that. It's poison. He takes a bite. He's like, it's not poison. She's like, well, am I going to trust you? You're the one that's got me here in chains, man.
True.
And he's like, listen, I want to learn from you. She's like, see, I knew there was something you wanted. He's like, tell me about your life. She's like, you tell me about your life. And they have a little back and forth. They're fighting.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely seems like kids on the playground that like each other. And they're very much like, oh, how I'm going to tell you that I like you as I'm going to throw rocks at you. But just so happens that I'm going to be trying you like a witch. It's like an adult version of that.
And I think what's interesting here is that they're fighting the things that they have been taught their entire life. Right? So Nina says, all the Fjerdans do is they capture us and they kill us. And he says, all you do is kill us. They're like, well, it's this vice versa thing. You've been trying to kill me. I've been trying to kill you. That's all we've known. But they want to get to know each other a little more. So it's adding a little fuel to the fire that might burn down the scaffolding that's held up their beliefs for their whole lives.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know what Nina was doing, but it definitely seems that Mathias wants to know information. Like, he knows that she's connected to General Kirigan, so he's like, give me some information on that. So she's like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
No.
In a moment, we think she's going to acquiesce because she does take a bite of the bread, and then she spits it in his face.
Yep.
So Nina and Mathias still aren't seeing eye to eye, and he ends up leaving her there. The final scene with the two of them, we see things are getting stormy. Very perfect storm, very George Clooney, very things aren't going well.
Was George Clooney in that movie?
Oh my God, yeah, he was the captain.
I just remember the final like death scene with when they all finally die in that scene, so I totally forgot he was in that movie.
I remember watching that movie and being like, oh my God, they die? Being like, yeah, it's about the storm.
Yeah.
You fool. They're not going to survive this.
No.
Anyway, very much the question, though, is that what's going to happen to Nina and Mathias if this ship goes down? So the captain basically says to Mathias, if we're going to go down, you got to kill all these captive people.
Yeah, his reasoning behind that was if they get out, then you want them on the loose and they'll definitely try to kill us. Yeah, of course. I do think it's interesting that the kryptonite for these Grisha are just tie up their hands.
I agree with that.
I mean, it's fine. Like, it's so much to the point of like, okay, they obviously need to do hand movements and use it and make energy flow or whatever the science behind that is. But it is interesting. It's like there's no special chains. There's no like circle of salt. There's like none of that stuff. It's just bind their hands.
What if you are one-armed? Can you still do it?
Then you're not a Grisha.
I guess not. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
I have
like
no idea.
They need both of their hands to make these movements. If not, then you're done for, apparently.
I mean, maybe just one hand. Like, they could do it with one hand. Because, I mean, in the books, Alina uses her discs in one hand. Like, she's not using both.
Okay.
So.
I think it's just interesting. I agree with you that even though her hands are still sort of free, she needs the whole arm for the movement.
You can't do any, like, finger movements?
Just a little. Or what about winking?
Yeah.
Wink, wink, wink. Apparently not. So the storm's getting bad. I'm interested in what Mathias's want to get to know her is.
Well, at one point in this scene, he does kind of look her up and down. Like, he's like, ooh, boobies. But, like, I mean, I think he's genuinely intrigued by her because she doesn't seem to be acting like the other Grisha that are held captive there. Mm-hmm. One, it's Nina, and she's, I mean, tough. You don't talk to her you can't talk to her any way you want. She's going to talk to you because she is a person, and she's like, no, I'm not going to just be meek and stay here and whatever. So I think he might find that intriguing because where he comes from and from what we've seen, I don't want to stereotype the Fjorden people, but they seem very tough and they seem very, I mean, they try people like witches. So,
all they want to do is hack you down.
Right, exactly.
The second they meet you.
So I think he finds it a little intriguing, and I mean, it's blossoming into like a great love story.
Yeah. I guess she breaks the mold of what he's always been taught about the Grisha.
Right. Yeah, it's the clash of beliefs for sure. Yeah. So that's where we leave them in this episode. I'm excited to learn more about them because this is more of, in the Six of Crows book, this is like told through flashbacky stuff, a lot of their past stuff. So it's cool to see it happening in real time. So I think it was super smart for them to do, like, show you the Six of Crows prequel.
Yeah.
And if they actually do end up doing their show, it's going to be great. We're already going to know them, love them. Their journey already started.
I mean, the one thing that I don't know is it actually a romantic relationship between the two of them? Because then it's sort of like a forbidden love, Romeo and Juliet, breaking boundaries of things that they've been taught. Or is it just that it's always going to be like this unrequited back and forth thing?
It's based in YA, so I think you can guess where that's going to go.
It's a love shack, baby.
Well, funny you should say that. All right, so the biggest chunk, the meat of this episode takes place at the little palace with Alina, also Mal's story, and General Kirigan. So the beginning of the episode actually opens up, and I did want to say I love how the title cards change.
Yeah.
In every episode, it's either like fire or snow or darkness or sun. So it's pretty cool. It opens up with Mal narrating letters to Alina while his unit is traveling north. I'm hoping that this is the last letter episode because two episodes is enough for me for them like narrating letters to each other. I think it's trying to make the believability of their connection more. Because we're getting tons of flashbacks at the orphanage. We're getting the letters that they're writing to each other. I believe it, but I'm like, no more letters. They're not getting them anyway. The Postal Service.
This is not an epistolary show.
No,
okay?
It's not.
It's not. But I like the letters because, like you said, it gives us the history. It's an easy way to lead into the flashbacks. And it shows that Mal has been trying to contact her the entire time. Whereas in the book, we had no idea that this was happening. I don't even think he wrote her letters in the book.
In the very end of the book, like if you get the newer edition of it, there's like a lost letter that Mal wrote to her. So of course, like I think it was within reason that he might have written to her, but then through the course of the book, he was very like resentful and kind of an asshole by the time they see each other again. So I think this one is more trying to fix that.
Yeah.
To show, which I liked. I did like that. I just think that like they've shown a lot of orphanage scenes.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it.
Yeah, they were orphans. Got it. Okay. Or it's Skatska. Got it.
It's very small criticism, but it's not that I don't like it. It's just We get it.
I also am very curious about how mail works. Are there birds? How would, when you're out in the terrain,
It's a pony service. These people on little ponies.
you just flag them down?
Yeah.
Mail pony.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, fine. If that's what it is, I'm fine with it. I'm just curious about the inner workings of the mail system in good old Ravka.
So, as you could guess, neither of them have gotten letters from each other.
Why?
Red flag.
Red flag.
Immediately, because if everybody else is getting letters, you're not getting letters. It's not great. Mao's unit gets to little base camp that they're at, and the commander tells them of a new assignment that General Kirigan is trying to get people to do. Essentially, they want people to find Morozova's stag.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, that's not real. That's not real. Mao sees a drawing that pretty much Alina did of the stag, and he was like, this is my ticket to get to you.
Yeah.
So he volunteers.
It's tribute.
That's true.
I do like in this scene where they arrive in this little village, Chernas, you can see it's war-torn, things are falling apart. There's a little piece of art on one of the walls that has a picture of the Sun Summoner, or a depiction of the Sun Summoner, and it says, "Our saint has arrived," but then in graffiti it says, "Too late."
Right.
So I think that shows the general consensus of how people in Ravka are feeling about the Sun Summoner. It's not this giant celebration. People are like, we've been dying for hundreds of years because of the fold. What now?
I think, it goes back to the whole thing of like, well, Grisha created the fold. Grisha's supposed to save it. So it's the ideals. They're all clashing. There's, uprising here, people that feel like Grisha shouldn't be what they think they should be. And so, I mean, it is interesting. I feel we'll see where that goes. Hopefully it plays out well with that. And it's not just kind of backstory fodder, and it really ties into the story completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So back at the little palace, Alina asks Genya if she's gotten any letters. Of course not.
Nope.
Red flag again. If you were taken and put into a new society or a new place and you're sending like 10,000 letters and you haven't gotten letters back from somebody you've literally known your entire life, that's not good.
Yeah.
Just going to say, like, they're obviously not delivering your letters.
Maybe put two and two together. And Genya is like, I might not have any letters for you, but you know what I do have? Riding boots.
Oh, yeah.
She's going on a ride with General Kirigan.
Yeah. There is a passing comment that Genya says about what happened to Zoya. And apparently she's been sent off grounds to reassess her priorities. I was like, dead. She's dead. They killed her.
They're like, you go back to the front line of the fold and you think about what you've done, Zoya.
Right.
No grapes for you.
Yeah. We do get, so in the last episode we talked about, we didn't get to see that scene where she turned away the black kefta, which were the Darkling's colors. This time we do kind of get that scene. It's more of a push away scene, I think, but they gave it to us.
Yeah.
So they bring in a new kefta and it's black with gold embroidery on it. And she was like, the Darkling's colors, ew. She puts on her blue and gold one. She wants to be like the summoners. She meets up with General Kirigan because they're going to go on a horseback ride. And he's like, oh, you didn't like my colors? Do you really want to fit in with everybody else? It's like, dude, no, I don't. I haven't fit in anywhere. So of course I want to like fit in with other summoners. I am a summoner. Come on.
I just got here. People hate me already. Right. And then you want me to walk around in the black kefta showing off that I think I'm better than everybody else? No. Not my
thanks.
speed.
No, thank you.
Do you remember when Zoya threw me across the yard and I like broke my back? Not happening, sir.
Yeah.
And then he's also like, you can call me Alexander.
No. I don't.
No, sir. No, thank you.
I'm like, you have 3 names and it's really hard for me not to just keep calling you Darkling for the show's sake.
I absolutely agree with that.
Right.
Also, flashback to Sex and the City, because I always bring it up.
What?
One of her last boyfriends was named Alexander Petrovsky, and he turned out to be a fart face.
Oh.
So anyone named Alexander, do not trust. No bueno.
But we love our listeners that are named Alexander.
Oh, yes. I mean,
if you're out there.
Shows. What I've learned between 2 shows of Sex and the City and Shadow and Bone.
I do like how they're like, you're going horseback riding. It's like, isn't everybody complaining that she should be training? I don't think this is a proper use of your time, but it's fine. Whatever.
I need time with the Sun Summoner.
Yeah. They end up going to this wishing well, this area. I mean, they're playing Who's That Girl I See Staring Back at Me.
I literally wrote in my notes, very reflection from Mulan. I wrote the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can hear the Christina Aguilera notes in the back.
I'm not a fan of the Christina one, but
High E over C.
it's
It's
fine.
the note that made her famous.
I mean, it's great. It's fine. I mean, nothing against her. I just like the movie version, you know?
Yeah.
But that's just whatever.
Inside.
We have so many weird other tangents in this episode.
Sorry.
I feel like this scene really is trying to make Dark Lena happen. It's the shipping terms that people use for either the Darkling and Alina, and like Mal and Alina as Melina.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this is we're seeing a different side of the Darkling here. You know, they're having one-on-one time, they're talking. It's not so much business talk.
Yeah.
It's more of like, tell me a little bit about yourself. How you feeling? You feeling okay?
It's the new resurgence of Benifer that no one is happy about.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But it's Dark Lena.
There's something that I wanted to point out that Alina said that I thought was cool, and it gave more to what she's thinking in her head, and it's not just, I don't want to do this, why am I chosen? She is scared that because of how the Darkling talks about, he's from the line of the Black Heretic,
Yeah.
put that in quotes, and he's like, I'm the most hated Grisha. And she's like, yeah, but if I don't do this, then I'm just going to take your place. She's like, then I'll be the most hated one, which is literally something that I did not want to be. Like, I just wanted to be a map maker.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, if I don't live up to my potential that everybody is saying that I have, I'm gonna be the new heretic. No, thank you.
Right. I've tried my whole life to just blend in. Even at the orphanage, I just wanted it to be me and Mal. I didn't want to be a Grisha. And now you're telling me I'm the all-powerful one that's supposed to save everyone. Not to mention that I'm half Shu, so they hate me already.
Right.
So you just want to double down and use me and put me in a place that I didn't even want to be in to begin with.
Exactly. Yeah, and then we get a history lesson with them at this fountain.
Yes. So, with every good wishing pond fountain, you have to have some history engraved into the sides of it.
Duh.
Very, very Christian Roman Catholic churches, the windows tell the history of.
I mean, they're beautiful. So, I mean, I always liked going in because like some of my family's Catholic, and like going into a lot of the Catholic churches, seeing that stuff. And I'm always like, I'm just going to make up my own story in my head of like, oh, that guy's getting decapitated because, so it's
Quite
like,
creative.
But because you couldn't know. And it was just like, oh, I'm going to make this up.
Yeah,
So I like how she was like, oh, I know this story right off the bat.
Got it. She's like, I may have been poor, I may have been an orphanage, but we all had to learn this shit. Okay. So we learned that hundreds of years ago, Anastas the king hired the Black Heretic as his advisor. Not known as the Black Heretic then, but later to become that. So we see that in this history, the Black Heretic tried to use his power in the court to gain his own followers and to take over. So the king ends up putting a bounty on his head. He puts a bounty on the head of any of his followers. And so he tries to use the little science that Marazova once used to create amplifiers. But instead of creating amplifiers, the Black Heretic ends up creating the Fold, killing himself, quote unquote, and many others. So we see that this is the history, this is what happened, and this is why everybody hates the heretic.
I love how she's the one narrating the story.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, did I get it right? And he's like, sure. I'm like,
Yeah.
you dick.
And then he lies, and he's like, I've devoted my life to undoing the great sin of my forebear. I am just a reminder of the problem. They always need someone to blame.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know. You and I will know. We all know.
I mean, most of these listeners probably know.
If you listen to our first episode of the season, you know.
Right.
You know, we know, they know, we know.
Yeah, and I think it's I don't want to say he doesn't have total remorse or some remorse about what happened. Who knows? I mean, I think in this show we might see something later, hopefully, about him actually, or the Black Heretic actually creating this, or like really what General Kirigan's motivations are, if they're different from the book. So I don't like him, but I don't hate him necessarily. Like, I'm like, let me see if this is different than the book,
I do think, though, that in this little horseback ride, the Call Me Alexander stuff, he ends this scene with saying, you and I are going to change the world, Alina. This is all him starting the buttering up process of the Sun Summoner.
He's also said that already. He's like said that. He said that to the king and queen. He said that to her already. It's like, it's weird. He keeps using that line. It's like trying to put this huge responsibility on her to where she feel like if she backs out of it, then the world's doomed because of you.
And also that it's me and you. You've never had someone before. We'll do this together. We're going to be great together. He's using all of these things that are sort of her weaknesses to bring her over to his side so he can get out of her what he needs.
Yeah.
He's such a dick.
Yeah, I mean, it's either manipulation, it's either he's being sincere with weird motivations. There's no way to tell.
We'll never know.
So then we get a scene with Mao, and he's narrating yet another letter that he's writing to Alina. But this acts as he's accepted tracking Morozovan's stag, and Dubrov and Mikhail are going to join him on that. So it's nice because it would have been just him by himself. So he's like, okay, best buds. Mal and pals.
3 best friends.
Exactly.
Mal's pals.
Let's go get this. The next scene we get, we're in Bagra's rock cave. Alina is getting slapped around for not summoning the light.
Ouch.
And I mean slapped around.
For real.
Like with a switch.
A riding crop.
Yeah. She's getting, I mean, her hands are getting smacked away.
Arms, hands, pushing her.
Yeah, it's
Rudeness.
This is the training montage of, it's a new Grisha. She doesn't know how to use her powers. Stop smacking me. Yeah.
She finally gets a little bulb of light to appear.
Yeah.
And she's so excited, and Bagra's like, not enough, honey.
I mean, that's not going to do nothing against that giant shadow fold. So I agree with Bagra at this point. Not enough. She goes and eats later, and she's talking to Marie and Nadia, and there's this funny thing where I believe it was Marie, and they're talking how Bagra sent a swarm of bees after her because she wasn't able to do her little science. And they were like, but it worked. It helped. Her methods are extreme, but they work.
I was swollen for days, but man, can I get that wind to go.
And she tells them that everything will be fine once Mal gets here. And they're like, ooh, who's Mal? Is he cute? So she's invited him, I'm assuming through these letters. He's not going to come, girl.
So at this point, Alina is still holding on to hope that Mal's receiving these letters and will come there. But at the same time, it's sort of dwindling, and the Darkling's coming in with his own little antics to get on her side, to be the man in her life.
Yeah, I mean, it's been weeks not receiving a letter. I know I've said it already. It's like, you should be more alarmed than you are. Like, that's weird that you haven't received any. We get another scene with Mal and pals, and they find some magic stag poo.
Duty.
Which means they're on the right path.
Right.
And Mal continues to write more letters to Alina. He literally swapped with Alina from the last episode. He's the one writing the letters this time. I mean, she writes letters too throughout this episode, but I thought it was interesting that they swapped. But I did like, and I did want to make sure I talked about this, is we're seeing stuff in the show that we did not see in the book or read about in the books. We kind of hear about it after and like offhandedly, but seeing how the whole time he was writing letters to her and he was doing this because he wanted to get to her again and he's doing it for her. In the books, it doesn't really come off that way, but in the show, it's better.
Yeah, in the book, it's like, they know I'm the best tracker, so they put me on this team. That's it. Sorry, lady.
Yeah, and then I saw you and I was like, pfft.
But he is saying to her in these letters, like, I'm doing this for you. If this is the only way I can be connected to you now, since you're not answering these letters, I want to get this stag to help you in your journey.
Right. I mean, what else? He just feels like he's a tracker and he has nothing else to give her. And he's like, well, this is the thing I can help with. I'm going to do it because I love you.
And the world swoons.
So again, we're back in Bagra's rock Grisha cave.
I mean,
Alina tells Bagra she might need an amplifier, and Bagra's like, no, that's lazy. You need to actually learn how to summon something before we even talk about an amplifier at this point. Bagra pushes her buttons a little bit, and she starts making comments about, oh, I bet that's all you're going to try to do is find a mother, which is not nice. I mean, she knows she's an orphan. It's not great.
She did that shit on purpose.
But it turns out Bagra drugged her tea that she had her drinking, and it makes her hallucinate or see a past in the orphanage with her and Mao.
She went on a peyote trip. She's like, sorry, lady, that wasn't just a chamomile. That was peyote. You're going to go tripping. And she surely does.
And we get to see another day where the testers were coming to see if they were Grisha or not. So, I mean, it does make sense that they would come to an orphanage multiple times because who knows how many kids they're getting in. Maybe they didn't get to test all of them because in the previous episode, we saw that they ran into the field and hid.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, they're like, okay, we'll run away. We won't get tested. We just need to stay together. It'll be fine. Well, it doesn't go that way.
Right. And we learn that in these tests with the Grisha that they cause, and we learn in these tests with the Grisha that they inflict pain on the kids that they are testing. And that's what brings about their powers, which is a callback to why Bagra is whipping the crap out of her.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's just how they do it.
She has her methods.
Yeah. And if you have a wound on you, they know you're already in pain, so they won't test you.
Mm-hmm.
So Mal, they see his hands all bandaged up. They're like, no, we're not even going to bother with
You're
this
already
guy.
in pain.
Right. So then we see Alina step up to the plate, and earlier they knock a pot over. So in her left hand, she's holding a piece of clay so that she's bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
And they hit her with the scissor or whatever it is. Knife?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
They prick her.
They prick her.
Yeah.
But because she's already causing pain with something else, it's not going to inflict her and make her Grisha powers come along.
Yeah, they use sudden pain to
Mhm.
do it. And she's like, well, it won't work if I'm already in pain.
Right.
So that was smart on her end, I think, even for a little kid. And I mean, it all goes back to them not wanting to leave each other, which I think is super sweet. And I can't help but be like, oh, it is nice. I mean, they're kids, they're orphans. They love each other so much, even at that young age, that all they want to do is just be together. That's
Right.
it.
But unfortunately, that love that she has for Mal, that protection, that wanting to stay with him is what's clearly blocking her from reaching her full potential as the Sun Summoner.
Yeah, she's always felt that if she was a Grisha, she would be taken away.
Mhm.
So just this whole time, she's just always pushed it down because
Right.
she's like, I need to be with Mal. If I'm a Grisha, obviously, now that people know she's a Grisha, they took her away. So this is the one other thing that she was trying to avoid and always stay with Mal. So Bagra tells her to buck the hell up and bring the light.
Yeah, she says, how many more Ravkan children need to be orphaned because you won't face the truth?
Rude.
Which is rude. So the truth basically being that he's forgotten about you. You keep trying to protect someone that doesn't care about you. And now you're going to let so many more people die.
Yeah, she's like, where is he now? I mean, okay, not Alina's fault. She's trying to send letters to him.
Maybe if the postal system was better and it wasn't just horses.
Well, also, but they're not giving the letters
Right.
to the...
Right. It's just General Kirigan.
He's reading them at
pile
night.
of their letters. Yeah.
So later that night, Alina tiptoes and stumbles into General Kirigan in a study where he's looking at some enemy maps and going over them. He talks about how there's an uprising in West Ravka, how he feels like he's been doing this alone for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
And Alina, doe-eyed with him, is like, well, you're not alone anymore. No, I guess he's not, like, physically.
Yeah.
She then grabs his hand and light comes out because, as we know, he is a living amplifier, so it's easy for her to use her powers at this point. And it looks like they almost kiss. And it's weird because it's like she keeps, like, she's falling for somebody that is so broken,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like, and it's just like, how can you forget about Mal that easily?
Right.
Like, no.
She's being wooed by the fanciness and the amplifyingness,
And the darkness.
the darklingness. But I do think it's sort of creepy, this scene. It ends with this almost kissed, and he is cupping her cheek in his palm. But the way he's gripping her head, it almost feels like an ownership thing.
I literally put, he grabs her head in a very dominant way.
Yes.
And they almost kiss, question mark. It was, I don't know if that was meant to show that way or the actor just kind of did it. But
Yeah.
it was off-putting. I was like, why are you holding her head
I
like that?
think it was really effective because what he says to her is, I've been waiting a long time for you. And it doesn't feel romantic. It feels like a weapon he's
Ownership.
been waiting for. Ownership.
Yeah.
You are mine now, and
Mhm.
I will use you the way I want.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I can't fault Alina too much because I think one of the things that they say a lot in the books, and they've said it a little bit in the shows, is like calls to like.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them, regardless of his actions or her actions, they're both outsiders. They're both these like prophesied summoners. He's dark, she's light. Opposites go together. I mean, so I can't fault her for being attracted to him in that way, but I mean, he's playing the long game here. He's playing a different game.
And also don't forget that for 16 years, she's been outright looking in Mal's face, being like, I love you, I'm in love with you, I can't wait to be with you, let's be together. And every chance he got to reciprocate in some sort of way, he would never break down that barrier between them. So finally, she's standing in front of someone that's looking at her going, I need you, I've been waiting for you, we're going to do this together. She's like, wow, that's the thing I've always wanted from Mal, but I haven't been able to get it. But look at this other person that's so willing to offer themselves to me.
Yeah, but you just found out his name was Alexander. So calm down, girl.
He's got a horse and a fountain.
And a little palace.
And a little palace. He's got an altar, okay?
So we do get a little scene of Mal and pals in a blizzard. And they're still tracking the stag, but we come to find out that they're entering Fjordan territory. So they're going a little farther north. But, you know, Mal is like, I need to do this. They press forward. Back at the little palace, Alina still gets no letters. Again, big red flags. Alina, at this point, from the way the scene is shot, showing flashbacks of her and Mal at the orphanage, the look on her face, how it's slow-mo walking to her room. I think she's starting to heed Bagra's words. The stuff with the Darkling happened, and she's starting to be like, okay, give up that past stuff. Why am I going to keep holding on to that if it's not even being reciprocated to me? Even though it's not by choice.
Right.
And she's like, I'm a Grisha now. Like, that's how I took that scene. She's like, okay, I'm in this world. I need to, like, buck up, and it's okay now.
Yeah, well, she has a breakdown in the hallway, okay?
Yeah.
Luckily, there was a very nice couch for her to fall on. And we see through this entire episode, she keeps looking at the scar on her palm from that day at the orphanage when the Grisha came. And this is the reminder. This is the thing that she gave up. This is showing her you put your true self away for this person.
It's like her promise to Mal.
Right. And so she's looking at it one more time, having this breakdown, realizing he's not answering none of your letters.
Nope.
Okay? Not even your invitation to the palace.
Nope.
Okay? Food? Right?
Nope.
Warmth?
Nope.
Baths?
Don't want it.
Nope.
I'm
No,
Mal.
sir. So she's like, done. This means nothing to me. I'm going to go show Bagra what I got.
Yeah, she walks very sternly into Bagra's thing and like, watch this, and summons a little mini sun.
And she's like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Screw that guy.
Bagra's like, now the work begins.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is what Bagra's trying to do. I mean, she was trying to be like, you gotta just like, whatever's keeping you from using your powers, you need to get rid of that.
Yeah.
And go. Like, I don't know, maybe Bagra was like, I mean, hopefully you don't like totally give up on them, but like you need to do it to like bring the light.
Well, and from what we know in the book, there's also more of a base to why Bagra is pushing her to be able to do these things on her own.
Right.
Right? She's like, well, I can just stand next to Kirigan and it'll be fine. She's like, no, you need to learn how to do it on your own. Which one is true, but two, she knows that there's a balance here that she can't play into Kirigan too much.
Yeah, and it is interesting because I don't believe General Kirigan told Alina about looking for the stag.
No.
It was mentioned in the last episode through the apparat and learning about the amplifiers and stuff like that. But General Kirigan was like, hey, I need to get the stag for you. So it is interesting. Like, he hasn't told her everything. So it's like, listen to Bagra. Like, use your powers. Come on.
Can I also ask a question? I want to ask a question.
No.
Please?
Okay.
Okay. Look, I know that this guy's like 112 years old, right? And we all know that he's the heretic, okay? It's out. But did he completely change his face? Nobody remembers what he looked like 100 years ago?
I mean, beard and raggedy hair and like, I mean, I don't think
thinned out.
But I don't think everybody lives that long. So
True.
Most of those people are probably dead.
Nobody's passing it down generation to generation.
Yeah. Also, I think it's just one of those things where it's like, shh, we all know that that's like a plot hole, but like,
let it go, Derek.
Yeah. There's some battles that we can fight and some we just can't.
You're right. I'm sorry. Between this and the Postal Service, I'm a mess.
Oh my God. All right. So we meet back up with Mal. He's writing yet another letter. Dubrov goes off and goes pee. What?
I just thought that was funny.
Oh.
He goes pee.
And during this time, Mal talks about when she used her abilities in General Kirigan's tent outside of the Shadowfold. He heard this like high-pitched sound. You heard this? It's like, ah.
Oh, Ariel.
Every time something like that happens, that's always the first thing in my head.
It's always Ariel.
I'm like, keep singing!
Ursula is the Darkling. Oh, it's all making sense now.
But as he's writing these letters, he says that he hears it again now.
Mm.
And what we can determine is it's probably the White Stag, the amplifier, like calls to like.
Mm-hmm.
So Mikhail, Dubrov, and Mal end up getting attacked and ambushed by some Fjordan raiders. I do want to say that these hand-to-hand scenes, like combat scenes, are pretty great. They're really well done, especially for like a YA series and stuff like that. Like, it's one thing to make sure the magic and little science and all of that looks great, but I think they did a good job with this choreography. This
oh my
fight
God, totally. There's tumbling, there's knives through hands into chests. There's people getting shot in the head. It was pretty great.
Yeah. And turns out that when it seems like they're kind of winning or like, they get the guys to go away, these Fjordan guys have a machine gun just sitting up in the
Hanging
trees.
out. Yep.
And of course, Mal gets hit. And when he gets hit, we end up getting a flashback of when he first joined the First Army.
Mm-hmm.
So in this flashback, he heads to where Alina would be in the mapmaker's tent. And it turns out that the quartermaster there had said some racist things to her. They got into it. She got put into the brig. Mal ends up finding this quartermaster, hitting him over the head because that's what best friends do.
Heck yeah.
You don't talk to my girl like that. And then he also gets thrown in there. But right next to her. It's so sweet.
And she was sleeping and she woke up and she was like, Mal. He's like, yo, what up? She's like, what happened? He's like, nothing. Just my usual hijinks.
I mean, that was sweet, though. Like,
Yeah.
he did it purposely to make sure she was okay.
Oh, heck yeah.
And I liked that he was humble enough to be like I found the guy that said some stuff to you and like, you know what I mean? It was
He
just
just
like,
knew that was his way in to get to see her.
exactly. It was pretty cute. And he also had the cut on his hands and she's like, oh, we match now.
Mhm.
Look at this.
11 stitches.
I mean, I do really like Mal and Alina. They're really winning me over. I think in the book, I didn't like her with anybody. I was just like, they both suck. I don't like them.
Yeah.
But in this one, I'm like, I'm probably leaning more towards Mal and Alina and not the Darkling and Alina.
Mhm.
And I hope that does not change.
Right.
Because I'm a sucker for like this very long to the love story with them, you know?
It's nice. I
Yeah.
definitely agree. I like Mal so much more in the series. I even think it's sort of sweet that we see that they have matching scars to each other because they got those scars in a way for them to stay together or to get together.
Right.
You know, it's just painting a better picture of their relationship
Mhm.
and why we're rooting for them to be together.
Yeah. And like, why would you not? There's nothing, like, there would be no reason why you wouldn't want them together. Like, if you're like, oh no, she needs to be with the Darkling, it's like, well, until Mal does something that's like, I don't know, murders her other best friend or like tries to kill her. You know what I mean? It's like, there's no reason.
Yeah, I mean, like, she should have her home husband, who's Mal, and then, her quote-unquote work husband,
Which is,
the Darkling. They work together, they do things
I
like
want her
wizardry.
I want her to have a work wife, and it's Jenya.
Okay, why not?
Yeah.
Let's do it. I mean, you're allowed, like, work relationships or work husband, work wife, work sister. She could have it all.
Yeah. So Mal ends up coming too, and sadly that also we find out that Dubrov and Mikhail are dead.
Yeah, we see Mikhail getting basically like a bayonet to the chest.
Yeah, it's kind of sucks because
Really sucks.
They were like the comic relief. They were Mal's really good friends, and you could tell that they had some good camaraderie together. And I was like, oh, now Mal's all alone. But then he gets a glimpse of the White Stag, which the stag's just like, hey, bro, sorry.
What up? He looks so cool, though. Those antlers are amazing.
I mean, it's a lot of antler. That is intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if I saw that in the wild, I'd be like, this is a mythical being, and I'm terrified.
But I have like this general sense that the stag is in on it. The stag
Murdering
no,
Dubrov and Mikhail? Oh.
The stag knows its fate. The stag realizes that it is there to be in their lives. That's why there are visions of the stag in Alina's dreams. That's why this mythical beast that has been untraceable for hundreds of years is now suddenly there.
Yeah.
The stag knows who it has to go to in order for the power to exist.
Yeah. Anytime in a story where it's like, oh, you're the prophesied this, whatever. And it's like, but there's also these mythical items that would increase your power. It's like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this goes hand in hand together. Like, obviously, like, they're going to end up finding this thing, and it was fate that they come together. I just like that Like, I think it's interesting. It's not like a device. It's a living thing,
Mm-hmm.
so it's a little different from some other stuff that I've read. Like Harry Potter had all the Horcruxes. Percy Jackson had all of the weapons or the things from different gods. So it was cool to have like a mythical being that would amplify the power. I don't like how it amplifies it and what you have to do, but whatever. That's a different conversation.
But again, I'm telling myself that the stag knows its fate so that when its fate occurs, I am not heartbroken.
So the final scene of this episode was pretty heartbreaking. We see at the little palace, Alina asks Genya to remove the scar on her hand.
Yeah.
I don't think we actually see her do it. She might have. It was kind of hard to tell. I was also taking notes. But it's kind of upsetting. And this whole time it seems like Alina's like realizing what she's doing, but she literally has like the fate of the world rests on her shoulders. And she's like, if I have to do this, also he hasn't written to me, so ew.
And
I need to do it.
And it's super sad, right? When we look at the ending and things that happened in the last episode, right? So in the last episode, when she first meets Genya, she's like, don't take this away. This is the one thing I want. And here we see her wanting it taken away as that reminder of Mal. Also in the last episode, with the end of her letter, she's saying, you used to tell me, Mal, of this thing called the true north and what home means. And at the end of this episode, while she's getting it erased, we hear Mal saying, Alina, when I spoke of true north, it was you. You are my true north.
I mean, she never got that letter, which is sad.
It's so sad, but he's finally saying to her, I love you. You're the thing that I've always wanted. Everything leads back to you. And she's erasing him.
In his like tracker Mal way.
Yeah.
They both kind of said it in their way, but it was like, she's like, you're my home. And he's like, you're my true north. And it's like, they never get these letters. So it's going to be interesting when they finally meet back up to see how they handled it in the show.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I'm curious to see. I hope she didn't remove that scar, because if Mal sees that, I'm pretty sure he's going to be like, scar buddy, what?
Remove mine too.
Yeah.
I hate you. You stink.
But I'm liking the show. We're halfway through, and there's so many changes from the book that I'm liking. I feel like the story is just so much more cohesive.
Yeah.
And it's believable.
Well, it's interesting because now we know that the crows are going to be on their way to the palace for the Winter Fete, which is a big deal in the books because it's where the unfurling of who the Darkling really is happens.
Yup.
I'm really curious to see what happens to Mal now. Is it now he finds the stag and he goes to the palace and that's when he sees Alina? Is it going to play out in the book?
I would think so, yeah.
Or is he going to ride the stag into the Fjerdan, sunset or something? I don't know.
He's like, you know what? Screw Alina. She didn't write me any letters.
Goodbye. So I think that it leads us in a really interesting place, this episode.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All right. Is it time for a special segment?
Always.
All right. Let's get into this episode's Badass to the Bone. I'd like to now introduce you to Mary Ann Brown Patton, who I am calling our cunning captain.
Ooh.
Born in 1837, died in 1861, married at the age of 16 to Joshua Patton.
Ew.
16.
I mean, different times. People lived until they were like 25. So,
which she really, yeah. Not great. Mary lived in Boston, Massachusetts. When the captain of a clipper ship heading to San Francisco from the eastern port fell ill, Joshua was given the opportunity to take over the route. He didn't want to leave Mary behind, so she joined him. Their first trip went swimmingly. See what I did there? But their second trip hit a few waves.
Wait, can I ask what a clipper ship is?
It's a ship for exporting goods.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. Why is it called clipper?
I don't know. Maybe the size.
Maybe a type of boat.
There's sails.
Sorry, that was just like running in my head this whole time.
If anybody knows nautical things, feel free to let us know.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So now she was 19 and pregnant.
Oh.
She joined him on the second excursion, but her husband fell ill and couldn't captain the ship any longer. So guess what? Mary took over. The first mate was slacking on the job, and the second mate didn't know how to navigate. So it was up to Mary to captain the ship, navigate, and take care of her husband by reading medical books while sailing the high seas.
Jeez.
That's right. The first mate tried to get the rest of the crew to revolt, but Mary managed to keep control. It is said that she wore the same clothes for 50 days while keeping all of this balanced. She led them to San Francisco, and they made it in 130 days. Mary is a total badass because she said that these high seas ain't got nothing on me.
Ain't got nothing on me's.
Yeah.
Just to rhyme with
19, pregnant, taking care of her husband, reading medical books, navigating people around the tip of South America.
Also, stopping a coup.
Yeah, totally. Nice try, mate.
Also, why? Like, what? And I'm assuming it's just because she's a woman and this guy had some weird fucking power grab in his head. And it's like, okay, none of y'all know how to do this, so if she's getting you there safely, stop.
And this first mate, he kept making really stupid decisions because there's actually like a competition between the boats that leave the port at the same time who gets there first. And he kept trying to like cut corners to get there, but he was putting all their lives in danger.
Right.
So they kept having to lock him up. And every time they locked him up and then released him, he tries some other bullshit.
Just throw him overboard.
Just get rid of the guy. But she did it. She took control of the ship. She took control of the ship. She kept control of it, and she got them all there safely.
Yay! Good job.
Good job.
Very
Mary
cunning
Brown.
indeed. I can't even fathom trying to take care of kids, a dying husband, reading medical books, ill. Also, and navigating. No, thank you.
Yeah, that's why she's a badass.
Total badass. Mm-hmm. All right.
See you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to A Bite of, artwork and editing by our own Noah. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at A Bite of Pod and on Facebook at A Bite of. If you have questions, recommendations, or just want to say hi, you can email us at abiteofpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Please be sure to rate and review to spread the word. Hope you join us next time on A Bite of. Bye.